really kind of doing that. And I know it's not a clear PLP starting at this time and going to the end of the year, but they were fired up about it, and I was too. And today we put our hopes and goals in on the tabs, and thought about what we need to be able to reach those hopes and goals. So we do it as hopes are like community goals or social curriculum goals, and then goals are academic. And
this was the second day you worked on it?
No, we started on Tuesday. So it was the third day we worked on it.
And have you been collecting data on how they felt about it? Like, have you been doing any surveys about
Yeah,
it?
that survey that we worked on that I showed you, I sent that out, but I gave them 2 surveys on our last project that we just finished, which was an energy project at the end of our energy unit.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I sent them one that I had about hopes and goals and what that process was like and how they felt about it and if they wanted more options and what those options might look like. And I think it's kind of hard for some of the kids at this age to be reflective on that. I had one of my high flyers was like, this process would be more meaningful if it was visited more frequently. I was like, yes! Well, I got that golden piece of data, that nugget that I wanted.
Yeah.
1 out of 21, but still, it was cool. It was a nice thing. And but when we started on this process, they're going with it and they're really enjoying it. So I need to do another check-in, like another feedback form on it. But I'm having everybody from the kids who are getting support from IAs to my more challenging students are just really, really into it. Some kids have already linked their YouTube accounts on their All About Me pages. I mean, they just jumped in and started doing it. And so I also then realized I better check with my tech people to make sure that we can do this. And she said, which was the one I thought I was going to plan to do anyways, just as long as you don't publish the sites and they just share it with you, then you're fine.
Cool.
So I let them know that today, and they were like, that. And I told them they would be sharing it with their parents and stuff. So
good.
It was just kind of, I don't know, I just dove right in.
Good. Jill, what's going on with you?
Let's see. So I was in warm Florida for a few days, so it's really cold now. And let's see. Wow, I just got really into your thing, and I totally forgot everything I was gonna say. This week, I am getting lazier and lazier. Is what's happening. I know I'm not teaching next year, which is. And I know I might never teach again. And so, not that I don't love teaching, but I might not come back to it. I might find another love of my life in employment. I mean, and yeah, so that's making the end of the year kind of difficult for me.
Aren't there 4 more months left?
Yeah. Well, to top it off, I have an intern from UVM, and she just started soloing this week. So I'm literally doing nothing. I can't even go into classes. So I've been.
So what are you doing?
A lot of work on your project, huh?
Well, I set up a new bank account. I did all these things. I did all the reading and worked on my PLP. But it's just, I'm kind of in a weird headspace. So I need to get back into it.
This isn't your first teaching job, right?
No. This is my second public school here in Vermont, but
so when does the intern end?
She is done in May, but her soloing just started, and that's for 2 weeks. So
that's gonna be a rough re-entry for you. I hope you're prepared for that. Right.
But so I'm trying to just stay engaged in this work because it is hard for me to be I'm gonna leave South Burlington with this awesome PLP stuff, but I don't know. I know it's hard for me to truly engage in it because I know that I'm not gonna really feel it.
Yeah.
Sorry, just being honest.
No, that's good. That's how I think a lot of teachers feel, except they have 1 or 2 years left, and then just neutral, and you just But I also think that it can be hard, you know, especially when you work really hard and maybe you feel like it's not valued, or you see other folks who are in neutral and you're working your butt off.
Yeah.
And you're like, why should I be? It's hard. I have to juggle that all the time. Like, who am I trying to prove it to or whatever? But it's
Well, people are saying that to me too. They're like, oh, well, like I'm not supposed to be teaching right now, but they'll say like, oh, like getting lazy, and I'm like, no, actually, I'm still working my butt off. Thank you very much. But yeah.
Kirby,
It
how
is
about
interesting.
you?
Let's see. I also went to Florida, but it was
Where'd you guys go?
I went to Hollywood, which is just north of Miami.
Oh, nice. Warm?
No, it was like the Floridians said it was cold because it was 76, but
Yeah.
it felt great to me. But it was really short, and because of the weather, we didn't leave till Friday, and that was when storms coming here. So we ended up having to drive to Albany, and then once we got to Albany, the flight to Newark got canceled. So then we had to fly from Albany to Chicago to then go to Florida.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time traveling, and I learned a really interesting fact about pressurized cabins by accident. And so I have a water bottle that's got like one of those push top like things. And I'm like reading away. I'm a little thirsty, so we're at 36,000 feet or whatever, and I push the button, and boy, to the ceiling of the airplane. The man in front of me it's dripping down on him. Thank goodness it was just water, but he was like, I felt so bad, and it was like siphoning, so it just never stopped. So I ended up sopping wet. Anyway, so that made it. It was good. It was fun. But now I know that the world around us, I guess, is like 14 psi, but airplanes are 9. So now I know. And in school's been tricky. We have a really large population from India, and I guess January and February are the really nice weather-wise months in India. And so I've had 2 students who've been gone for 4 weeks, but not the same 4 weeks. So that's been really hard. One student just came back. I haven't seen her since January, and one is still gone. So I've had I'm like with the vacation, some kids left early, some kids aren't back yet. So it's all just like, I don't really want to do anything more that's like really important, but comes to a point when you gotta move on. So that's been kind of tricky. But I did just find out that our budget passed, which is great.
Colchester, right? No,
South
sorry, you're
Burlington.
South Burlington.
We're the ones who took it 3 times last year. So
Right.
that's great. And I just found out today that in that budget was more tech, which is awesome. I teach 2nd grade, and for 12 classrooms full of kids, we have 20 Chromebooks to share. That's it. So I just
In
found-
South Burlington?
Isn't that wild?
But we're 1-to-1 at that.
It's 1-to-1, 3 through 12, but K2 has to share just one card of 20 Chromebooks.
Oh, that's
Yeah. So, right? So what we just in the budget is 2nd grade now is also going to be 1-to-1. So that'll be interesting. It makes like some of this tech stuff feel maybe more possible for next year. Right now, it's like I can never use that.
And maybe that's something we should talk about too when we talk about digital citizenship, is how much tech do we want our kids using. I'm sort of on the other end of that, where you can throw computers at kids and they're just like, and it's, I get bored. Like, I have kids working on projects right now, I'm kind of getting jumpy, you know? And so what would happen if we didn't have tech? You could teach like you used to, right?
A lot of great learning, but then they go to take the S back in 3rd grade and
Yeah.
can't type a paragraph.
And another thing too is, you know, we talk about equity. We have all these kids who are in front of computers, but we're not even teaching typing anymore.
Yeah.
So if a kid is getting typing, keyboarding at home, they're good to go. But if they're learning it at school, it's not really right. Good. Courtney.
I didn't go anywhere this break. First time in a while, so that was tough. Except we had first world problems, you know. But we had one really pretty day here. I am planning a maker fair for our school. one that we're having. So that's been a lot of work.
Yeah.
My head's been in that a lot. I just found out Green Seas is coming, so they have an ROV and some other stuff. So every year we try to bring somebody. I mean, we have many community partners, but something that has like a wow factor to it. So it's found out they're coming.
Did you get that? There's some email. It's on my phone, which I left in my car. That there's some Champlain Maker Fairs happening, like in March. There's 2 coming up. I don't know. Anyway, I'll pass
At
that.
Children Farms.
I don't know where they are, but there's some. I didn't even look at the email, but I'll pull that up when
Okay.
we have a
I
break.
got one recently, but it's in California.
Right. And then do you do your Maker Faire under the aegis of the Maker Faire? Have you?
No.
Okay. So you're doing your own planning.
You know, at one time I think maybe I registered it,
Yeah.
but I forgot to do that this year. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the very first year I invited I'm forgetting his name now, the guy at the AOE who is in charge of the one around here. But now I haven't. And what else? Right before I left, so our district is having a Beyond Black History Month celebration tomorrow night, and so we practice restorative practices in our district, which comes out of restorative justice, and so we did one on Black Lives Matter recently, and so we were going to do that at the celebration tomorrow, which is parents and kids. I don't know a ton about it. And right before I left, my principal said, yeah, well, someone said you might get some pushback from people about because we're white. So, about that. I don't wanna be involved in that. And what I would say if somebody did, be like, why are you doing this?
So Burlington also raised the Black Lives Matter flag on like March 5th. I forget when it was, right? But Montpelier had done that on
Yeah, we were
February
right after
1st,
Yeah.
and that's a whole discussion. But some of the stuff that, what teachers and some of the people who were involved in that, what they were getting was like unbelievable.
Really?
Oh yeah, and it's there's a couple different sides to it too. One is you have a lot of people who are expressing opinions that were articulate and well founded, and a lot of them were expressing opinions that were pretty bad. So
Misconceptions.
yeah,
I heard that thing on Instagram that some adults who were like targeting the young lady, the high school student.
Right.
It was like really a problem.
And that's all that's technology too. That's a piece of it, the social media.
Yeah. And so I wrote the one for our school for our 5th graders because they were talking about it and they had all this information from watching, I don't know what they watched, tips and stuff about Black Lives Matter and seeing white people beating up black people, and so I wanted to talk about it. I thought you guys are getting tons of stuff just from the internet. That was the reason I did it. So we'll see. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it yet. I probably will. And in terms of class, this has been really good because I've kept in my mind like the idea of voice and choice throughout. And I'm a unified arts teacher, so I only have students once a week, and it's STEM. So I've always kind of had a curriculum that I've stayed pretty close to, but I've been trying to find ways to ask kids their opinion and what they want to do, and just in small ways. And it really, they just kind of like light up. It's like so different, So I've just been really, really happy that I've been part of this class and learning how to do it in my role because it certainly is possible. I'm going to work with one of my 5th grade classes on my project. So I've been getting to know a little bit about what they do for setting goals in their class and what I can do to help. And they said, all I do is set reading goals. They said, okay, so would you rather, I talked to a few kids, I said, would you rather create a site and kind of have a biography and an intro about yourself, or would you rather think about your strengths and write a personal goal and a school goal? And they said, we want to do our strengths and our goals. So I'm going to run with that.
Well, I think once you start getting kids' opinions and letting that shape your teaching, it's really hard to go back. Because when you stand up there and you start jabbering away, you're like, oh, how many kids are just tuned out right now because they're not engaged, right? Yeah. So it's interesting. Once you have enough of those experiences, I think it just becomes integrated right into your curriculum, which is
Yeah.
good. Neat.
I don't know where either. Excuse me. That was the time of like our mission and do it, so.
Are you finished?
No, we live in like a 205-year-old farmhouse, so nothing is like square, so like, doing like subway tiles on like walls. Yeah, so I kind of underestimate how long it would take me, so I'm gonna finish on Sunday.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, well, we got a lot of other things. So that was kind of great. It was kind of nice to get away from it. Like, it's been kind of turbulent at school lately with town meeting day coming up, and that's not passing our budget, but we knew it wouldn't pass again. And the debate on keeping the high school open or not.
I had
It's been awful. Like,
question about that. So they voted to keep the high school open, right?
last year.
Yeah, but then this year,
They don't like the proposal. Well, some people do, some don't, but they don't like this. So the proposal is to keep the high school open and to create this like subsidiary called like advantage category, like we get tuition students to also on top of regular students that help offset the cost of not getting the rules grant and all the money goes to the state by not combining with another school.
but
So, I kind of stopped following it this summer and just took a step back from it. Okay.
it sounded complicated. I was reading about that.
Where?
Oh, I just was reading about how they didn't pass their budget, but then they had voted last year to keep open the high school. I didn't quite understand that.
Yeah, well, the budget was like a crazy, like 16% increase. So obviously that was not going to fly. It originally started at like 23%. For town meeting day, got it down to 16. So it'll go back and forth for a while. Last year, I think it took 3 times to pass. That was over a 2% increase, I think.
Did you see that opening at CVU? I was telling Elaine about that. Social studies, school spring.
Yeah.
Might want to.
A little closer.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I love working there. It's an awesome school. But long term, it's probably not the.
Yeah. How about you, Elaine?
Did not go anywhere as well, but did get outside and enjoyed a few days of nice weather. Got to get my longest run in to date, 16 miles. So going up.
Training for the marathon, huh? Are you using Higdon's plan?
I'm using Marathon Training Academy.
Yeah.
They do this. So they're trying to break 4 hours. We'll see. I don't know. That's him. Finishes the first goal, but
Yeah.
4 hours a week. So that's been fun. And it was nice to have the whole week not going to class, not going to work. Basketball finished, so I was helping the coaches. So that took up a lot of my time. So nice to have that time. Feels like it's been forever since I was in a school. I'm subbing tomorrow, but that'll be like the first time in a few weeks that I've been back in school. And in terms of my project, I got to sit down and kind of hash out the scope and sequence of the unit that I want to plan, and really dive into the ideas of identity and community and how it relates to social studies and kind of integrating those two ideas together. Since if you think about social studies, it's really an examination of identities and communities throughout time. So how do you meld that with the ELP system? How do you make a framework so you allow for student voice and choice, but give them enough that kind of guide them? So that's where I'm kind of wrestling with. But I have the basic framework where I want to go.
Cool. What's that sound?
Incredibly annoying.
So you're already running 16 miles, huh?
Yeah.
I just signed up for it. So.
Well, now
You're
I'm going
not
back
gonna
down.
Yeah, I think my biggest one is 5. I gotta get
As
going.
long as you can go half, that's what I hear.
Are you
As
done
long
on
as you do
marathon?
half.
No, I've done 2 before, and they were both disasters.
You have
So I
really?
have to try it again. The first one I ran, the first half I was running like wait, I was like, this is great, I'm running so fast, and I got to 13 miles and the lights shut right down.
Yeah.
So then it was a struggle.
26 is a totally different race than 13. I enjoyed the half marathon, but
It's two of them right in a row.
yeah.
So we'll see. Yeah, I'm just trying to finish too. That's good. That's a long way. 16. That's good. Allison.
I just, I went all the way to Hawaii, so I pushed my vacation all the way till Tuesday at 10 p.m. and then had to be at work.
Oh.
So it's been interesting, and my co-teacher had a family loss over, so I'm kind of holding down the fort for both of our. I had little time to do schoolwork, and now I'm doing teaching, kind of overseeing 2 classrooms, so that's been interesting. My kids have been really great though, coming back. They came back. Usually I feel like they don't remember anything when they come back, but they've been like super great. And Hawaii was awesome. I would like to move there. Everybody's relaxed. It was just relaxing. Was not particularly sunny in Hawaii when I was there, but it was warm, so it's hard to come back to this.
But it's beautiful.
Yeah.
In so many ways.
I do like, and I'm a skier, so I do like snow, but I'm over it now. I've been to Hawaii.
Right.
So like who was saying, it's hard to go somewhere. Yeah, I agree. Well, yeah, nothing really. We have some interesting stuff going on with our school.
Yeah, so is Basin closing?
So I don't. So not this year.
Yeah.
But in the next couple of year plan is that we're gonna have more like different, kind of like the Burlington school. Like different schools will have different focuses, and next year we're cutting 15 positions. So that should be interesting.
So my interest in that is Waterbury, Thatcher Brook, and I know that the Mad River Valley is kind of like this supposedly vibrant community. And so now we're talking about Basin Elementary School. Is there
It's an amazing. Have you ever seen that? That is the most beautiful elementary school that I've ever seen. It's just.
Well, the principal is the person who I took over for 14 years ago, Kaya Korb, I think.
Okay.
And then, but then there's also, is there a Duxbury Elementary?
My Duxbury now. It's been for years.
Okay, so it's only the one school?
And they're talking right now on a K-4 school in the middle of Cressibrook is a 5. They're talking about moving. I'm a 3-4 teacher in Looping. They're making 4th graders go over to Cressibrook because there's no space in Cressibrook. So that would be interesting. I don't know what that would, how that's going to look. And then they're thinking about taking the 7th and 8th graders at Cressibrook. Well, they are. This is actually their plan. I'm moving them to Harwood.
Right.
So there's going to be a lot of kids commuting really far.
Why are they, is this part of the merger?
Yeah. So now we're all Harwood unified.
So it's based on numbers.
Yeah, basically, like, I mean, literally, they need to close. They have 2 teachers that teach 4th grade, and they each teach like 10 kids. So they don't have the numbers, and it's just not like economical.
But are the overall numbers of the district increasing? Or
Yeah.
decreasing?
So I don't know. Like Thatcher Brook is overflowing. Waterbury,
It's booming,
Duxbury,
right?
like we're like overflowing. We have no room, and then there's no. So like because I'm not on the bottom of the totem pole anymore. I'm pretty set, but there's a lot of teachers who are really worried about the job. And I think there's talk about focus, like each school that they keep open will be like magnet. In the beginning of the year, our superintendent started our year by saying something like, people are going to hate me by the end of this year, like the community and so like we had no, she's like, I can't tell you anything about it, but I'm not going to be, people are not going to be a fan of me because like literally they're going to have these young kids traveling pretty far to go to school.
Yeah.
And in March, you don't know like where kids are going to be.
No, it's not. I don't think it's going to be next year.
It's pretty long.
Okay. Yeah. This is not next year. Next year it seems that we're only going like my co-teacher who was my student teacher, he's got a written notice. There's 2 teachers in my school because they're cutting one of the positions at Basin. So that means that so they have one fourth grade, one teacher, and so that means that he doesn't know whether he's be retired. I mean, so maybe that the teacher, because she has more seniority, might be tough. Yeah. So that was interesting.
That's always fun to deal with when you're trying to.
Yeah. And we don't, literally, we have no room. I have 25 kids. I have no room.
How many kids do you have are you responsible for? 25?
I have, we had, so 50 because I teach math to 2.
50?
Yeah.
Do you have 25 elementary kids in a classroom at a time?
Yeah, right now. I had 19 last year. 19 last year.
25.
But it's not equitable because now there's been we do a lot of shifting in our school district, which is super annoying. Like a parent complains and a kid gets moved. So there is a fourth grade in my school who has 17 kids and I have 25. So it's just, it does a lot of shifting outside of classroom.
I have a friend in California who teaches fourth grade and he has 32 students. And about a third of them speak a different language in their household. But they don't, they're not inclusive like we are here in Vermont, so they have alternative classrooms for like almost every grade level. So they don't have necessarily some of the behavioral challenges that some classrooms have, but they have, English language learners.
Right.
I had no desk. I had to go to the other teacher's classroom. So now I'm like the senior fourth grade teacher, so I had to go and get desks.
It's that's a good problem to have. Yeah,
I guess. My mailbox, like until grades come out. And I'm like, oh, you have like almost 10 less grades.
Report cards and conferences.
So like I had to go get desks. I didn't have enough mailboxes for desks. It's been an interesting year.
Right.
Project wise, I did my first Google form, which was pretty empowering. I just asked kids like how often they're asked to reflect in my classroom, and I would say 90% said that they reflect weekly, and then 2 kids said, "Oh, they never have to reflect in the class." It's very interesting, right? So it was anonymous, so I don't really know who said those, which is kind of interesting too. Because I didn't ask for their names, and then I just asked them like, what do you think reflecting means, and what ways? I'm trying to like provide different ways for them to reflect. So I said, how do you like to reflect? So they gave me all these ideas of what they want to do.
Cool.
I'll be really interested. I found that interesting.
One thing, I started out doing all anonymous surveys because I thought, this is anonymous, I'll get good feedback. And as you do that, as you continue to do that, I would start feeding in surveys where you ask for their identifying information, because then you can say to kids, look, if you have an issue that you mentioned, I want to be able to figure it out and help you. And that's part of building relationships and trust. So I alternate it, but quite often I'll ask for their information so that if there's something to help with, I know who to identify.
Really interesting because there was 2 parents who decided to show up to the parent without their kids. So for our goal setting conferences, so I'm wondering if those are the 2 kids that I kind of wish that I had asked. Are those the 2 kids that don't understand what we're doing because they were not in these meetings with their parents? I don't know. Even though we've been doing a lot, that would have been pretty interesting. Maybe at the end when I re-ask.
Olivia, what's been going on?
Well, I can't wait to go on my break.
Which is next week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after I close my homes tomorrow, I'm actually going to Hollywood, Florida. So,
Cool.
But as for this week, besides not having class, it's been pretty normal working in athletics. I guess the only thing that we have, and I think Courtney is we had some issues with like Black Lives Matter posters, and it's okay to do white posters, and like I don't have the right wording, but like appreciate your Western heritage. So we had a mandatory campus-wide meeting and Res Life and a bunch of deans. And it was a good turnout. I was pleased because it shows that students care about
the issue was ongoing, and I've been talking to my mom about it because she works at UVM and protests and everything, and she doesn't work for the president, but her office is right below the president's office, and she was on lockdown all of last week because of the protests. Just they were so loud, they were banging on my mom's door, and so like she could only go, like it wasn't dangerous, like there was no active shooter or anything. So like she could go to the bathroom, she could get lunch or something, go for a walk, but they weren't allowing students to come in and out of her office. So I guess it was like a blessing and a curse because she got more work done. But it's like as soon as they took away the lockdown, it was like a line of students. So yeah, I've been just talking a lot with my mom about it. The differences between when I was there versus now I'm here on the other side of campus. And I'm a student, but I'm also having students come to me because of these issues where their Black Lives Matter sign was broken in half, or they use like inappropriate language. That's what I've been dealing with. And then we're just kind of wrapping up our winter season of sports. We lost a big game in hockey, but now we're just going to school. But like we're focusing on the next season. And as for my projects, I took a little bit of a break from my PLP and started working more intensely on my teaching episode. I kind of took a break from PLP because I was getting frustrated with technology, but half of it was sorted out last night, and I'm learning a lot on how to create lesson plans.
And your teaching episode is,
Mindfulness.
when is that?
April 5th.
So maybe there's a way that we can get some people to kind of look at your lesson plans, give you some tips.
Awesome.
I'm sure that, how many people in here actually write lesson plans for the day?
Well,
We've been like,
I have not, I came into the
have a
job.
week. I have like a week like plan, but I don't write a lesson plan.
Not like that.
So wait, no. I mean, like when you show up, like at work, what does it look like? Like, do you have a piece of paper where this is what I'm doing? These are my goals and objectives.
and put it online. And have it online.
Really? Interesting.
I'm in notebook. I have like this is my week.
Yeah.
And then
Do you talk about your objectives with your kids every day?
as I'm teaching them, but they're not like written up on the board.
Interesting.
I write back in.
I usually do that.
Well, how do you present it to the kids?
Every class that comes in, they sit down and we go over that.
Like something like that?
Well,
I mean,
it's
like,
not an agenda, but yeah.
huh.
I have both on the board. Like I have the agenda and then also an I-10 statement. And sometimes I give them little pieces of paper where they have to write the schedule down and the I-10 statement. And then at the end of class, like I always talk about it all during class, like you need to be able to do this and this. And then, okay, like here's your exit, whatever. And you show that you can do this.
Every day, every class, you have an exit.
Something form like a feedback for me in some form. Yeah.
Good. That's
Especially
good.
with big classes, like sometimes I just like I can see if they're doing an activity on Desmos and writing things in, I can see their answers and if they're getting it. But other times I can't get that feedback.
Right. So Sam, we've just been going around and kind of reacquainting ourselves with each other, just kind of figuring out what we've been up to and how we've been doing and how things are going at school. You want to tell us what kind of what's going on?
I went to South Carolina. Starting a brewery summer. It worked out for a long time. Yeah. So that was fun. It was like being a part-time. Every time we've gone down, we've been down 3 times now, and every time it's so that was fun. And school is kind of the same. We have a couple of like kid things happening. Not a lot of meetings, but like behavior. otherwise, like, and for my project, I've got like everything designed. I did like my opening data assessment. I took them a whole day, and then they started working on the class.
Were you, how were the results of the poll? Were they what you expected, or?
Yeah, I mean, about like, it's hard. I asked them specifically about my class and like choice and whether or not they think they get options. And some of them answered it that way. I think a lot of them, based on their responses, were thinking more about, because like our core is so integrated, I think a lot of them are thinking about the core in general. And we've done a couple projects right now where they've gotten to like choose if they do. So some of their responses, I think they were talking about that rather than my class, but overall, was what I expected them to do.
Good. So that was good. We're already backed up. But it's good to hear how people are doing and what people are doing and the very different things that are happening in people's classroom. But Olivia, if we could remember, maybe we can have people look at your lesson plan, and kind of give tips. I don't actually, well, I kind of do write lesson plans, but I vary it between like PowerPoints. But one thing that Jill just reminded me of, we're in a project right now, like a big, huge project. And I probably get a little lazy in projects where, okay, let's do some project work. This is where you need to be, and benchmarks. And I could probably be assessing where they are and saying, do you need specific help? Because I just think, I don't know if it's where I am in my teaching career, but I could be working harder. You get that, you're always like, I could be doing the exit tickets. I could be doing small group instruction. And I could probably be doing a better job on a daily basis. Yeah.
I just started this new thing for like those kind of things where they have like kind of create a contract for the day, what they're going to accomplish in time, and like what they think that each part of that day that they're going to be able to finish themselves. That's really been great.
We've
For
said
me to check in like, oh, it took you, you said it's going to take you a half hour, but you realized it's 45 minutes.
Right.
And then I can check in.
And I mean, I'm using those micro goals where they're setting a goal for like 4 or 5 days and trying to accomplish that. But having small group instruction, I could be doing that a lot better. And I could also be assessing where they are and making sure they're kind of pushing all the kids to get to where they need to be. But one of the things that's really getting in my way is the 50-minute periods. You have 50 minutes and then you have to transition. And I feel like I could probably have my kids for a couple hours in the morning. We'd get a lot more work done and be a lot more calm. So I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to go to the digital citizenship piece, and we can save the book discussion, I think. Well, how many people would want to do the book discussion? How many people would like to do the digital citizenship? And how many people would like the tech jam? So we have 3 things that I kind of want to cover. And the digital citizenship piece, I think, it's like 20 minutes. I can modify that. But we also have this tech jam talking about tech tools. We also can talk about the reading, because the reading, I think, really touches on what a lot of people are talking about, student voice and choice. So we're a little bit flexible. What would be any suggestions on what people would like to do? Why don't you talk to each other? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I wouldn't mind waiting to review the reading until after break, and it makes the way my brain works, it makes sense to do the digital citizen first and then tech jam.
Okay. What are people okay with that? All right. So the first thing I want you to do is actually just talk to the people at your table, and for about a minute, and I want you to maybe discuss what you do with digital citizenship in your classrooms. How do you cover it? How do you talk about it? Just super quick review with each other. Go ahead.
I don't.
Oh, can you tell me more about what they did? Oh.
So we, the way we do it is tech comes to us in our classroom, and we have videos that they watch.
Like randomly.
Then we do like class.
That way, someone can
And then sign it.
David,
Like that.
password.
Like, monitoring all the time. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like
So do some of the-
instead of, well, we do from class. It's kind of, so I want the citizen.
Um,
But I think instead of saying, every kid is
talks about like.
we said, oh, we got to monitor it, really good. So I don't imagine watching them all the time, which is not reality. They're gonna are tech experts.
It's been like they watch things that I
Teaching them how to use
Well,
the
that'd
system
be
rather
good.
than taking it away and
the little picture on the.
you can't get it out of because that's not reality. So I don't know.
I'm surprised they're like, we're not.
I like,
And then the
I like, I got it.
Keep it on, because we're do it a while. So we had to change it, and it would take them all the selfies with the notebooks. And then just bring it to their
Computer and, because I was not on it.
that too. So that's basically what we talked about, and then also,
It's not the.
Right, and I'm just doing it around.
I will, only go.
So,
making sure that the application is driven by
About another 45 seconds.
No. When you can do, that's more bullshit, it's done stuff. And it'll open the last stuff they see coming out. Yeah, and that's like, when that.
Yeah.
You did that. So once that's done that a couple times, it definitely stop doing that. Oh.
That's good to know.
And so I use not.
I have so many that I need to think about.
All right, here we go.
Did you use that
So these were the goals for tonight. And if you guys want to log on to the presentation, it's on the website. These were the goals for tonight. We were supposed to discuss the reading, but we kind of got into a good conversation, updating each other. We are going to talk about digital citizenship and maybe have you guys think about how you introduce concepts of digital citizenship to your students. We're going to share resources and tech tools. I'm hopeful that you'll be able to report out. Some of you already did this. I think we kind of checked that one off. But I would like you maybe to work in small groups and confer about where you are with your project, and if you have any questions, that would be good. One thing I think digital citizenship for me, I've integrated that into my program pretty heavily. When you start giving kids student voice and choice, and you give kids options, I think you have to have a culture of respect and responsibility, particularly when it comes to technology. Because kids, like all of us, get distracted by technology and they can lose focus. And that I don't mind. In fact, I kind of expect that to some extent. But what really scares me is when kids are seeing things online that they don't understand, and that when they're also passing along things that they don't understand. And just one quick example is we had kids make memes last year, and a kid put a meme up that I thought could be construed as not racist, but it was like they were using not a white person in a meme that was joking, and the whole class was pretty much white. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like they were joking about us. It was joking about an other or them. And I was like, are you kidding me? And they had no idea. It didn't resonate that was not the right thing to do. And if you've been online, you can get pretty ugly pretty quick when it comes to what people are putting online. Just look at your Facebook feed and the things that people are putting and posting with they're putting their names right out there, you know what I mean, and posting stuff. Anyway, this is a personal learning framework regarding technology. So we talked about relationships before, and one of the things that I talk about with kids a lot is not only their real life person-to-person relationships, but also their digital relationships. Because many of our kids have an incredibly vibrant digital social life, which is not addressed whatsoever by schools. And this to me is a huge concern, that kids are coming into school maybe weighted down or thinking about a completely different world that they're inhabiting, and we're not doing anything to connect our worlds together, and we're not doing anything to acknowledge the pressure and stress that are part of that digital world. And I also think, for me personally, I had Facebook and I still have Facebook, but every time I go on Facebook, it makes me feel bad about my life. This is just personally, but you always see people with the biggest, greatest fish they've ever caught in their life, or the best day they've ever been skiing. And it's kind of like a self-celebration that's designed to make other people maybe feel less than adequate. And I feel like that really, sometimes that weighs me down. I see friends, oh, I had the best powder day ever. Well, they don't have 2 kids who are sick at home, you know what I mean, like I do. And you're like, and so anyway, there's this dissonance, I think, with social media. And so this framework is based on technology. And so the questions I'm asking are a little bit different. How do I fit into the digital world? What are my principles and values related to technology? What are my tech goals? How do I make a positive contribution in those online communities? Also, what evidence demonstrates my growth as a teacher, digital citizen, and online role model? I'm telling you right now, I believe that everything I put into a computer is eventually going to be is open season, right? So I don't. I'll retweet stuff, but I'm only going to retweet stuff that I'm sure that parents are going to be seeing. And parents will see those, and it's a hop, skip, and a jump from your feed to some of your parents' feeds. And I know teachers who are posting stuff in my daughter's school that I'm just like, man, I hope they're talking to their union, because if it was me, I would never post these things on Facebook, right? Because again, it's parents who are seeing these other connections, and you never know how it's connected. So I would just, as a professional, you need to be very, very cognizant of what you're putting online. What are my technology goals, and how can I achieve those? And this is something that I'm really considering right now, because I'm sort of on the other side of technology, I think, where technology is amazing and cool, but I'm also sick of it. And I really am starting to feel like it's pulling me down. And how do I get away from technology and still feel like I'm achieving things? What's my online technology use, and how's that changing? What habits of mine are helping me address strengths and challenges? We're throwing structures and the teaching and the lessons at them as well, and especially relevant to how they're using technology. And what's my next step with technology, and how have I transformed or changed my educational practice? So again, this is just a way that I'm using the framework to think about myself as a digital citizen. What can you be doing? Technology for me is unbelievable. As someone who likes visuals and videos, I can go online, and if I need to know how to tie a new fishing knot or fix something, I can use YouTube. And you can pretty much Google anything and find a solution, and I really appreciate that. But I am very cognizant of the danger of technology as well. So again, this is our PLP, and all I've done, this is the same template that I showed you before, and you see these are the tabs that we have. But when we talk about digital citizenship here in the community, these are my friends and relationships, but now I'm thinking about online. Principles and values. With technology, I'm thinking about my ethics that I'm using with technology. With citizenship, now I'm thinking about digital citizenship. How am I using it responsibly? And then with exploration, I'm thinking about how am I using technology to research, and how am I giving rights to people. And we have kids who are downloading music and pictures all the time, and are we teaching them how to do that appropriately and to give credit, right? So as you can see, just from these 2 slides, we're using the same structures, but we're applying them to the digital worlds that our kids are inhabiting, and many of us are inhabiting. Also, when we talk about the 3 pillars of personalized learning, if you notice in the background, there's this thing about equity. And I'm not an expert on this, but I get really concerned when we're asking kids to use Google Classroom. Some kids go home and they have 5 different devices connected to the internet. Some kids go home and don't have any devices connected to the internet. So how are we making sure that our practice is equitable and that what we're expecting from kids is achievable in each of their households? And what, you know, for example, I never ask kids to do anything online at home because I'm not sure who has access online and who doesn't. And in particular, that's true with multiple kids who have multiple households. They'll tell me, oh, well, I'm at my dad's tonight and I don't have access online. So being cognizant of that. Also, you guys, I'm sure have heard of the studies that show, like in elementary school, if you have a cart and you just say, okay, go get a computer, the boys or the most aggressive kids will get the technology first, and the kids who tend to hang back won't get that access to the technology. So how are you making sure that it's fair and it's a non-stressful way of accessing the technology? So again, in my classroom, what I do is I send table by table to go to the cart, and it's very orderly. As soon as you say, okay, go get something, it's going to be the most powerful, aggressive kids, which is just reinforcing the social strata as it is now. And that's something you have to pay attention to. And so this is about access, and it's also about the skills that we're building with those kids. And when we talk about the 3 pillars of personalized learning, some of the ways that we're using technology are the PLPs, the evidence, and the multimedia. We also have using technology for assessment, data collection, the evidence of learning. And we also, you know, when we talk about exploration, differentiation, extended learning opportunities, these are all predicated on not only students' use of technology, but also teachers' use of technology. So one thing when we talk about equity as well, Allison is talking about some online planner that she's using. If she's using technology more effectively in my class than I am, is that creating inequity between, you know, the student experience, right? Because I know that there's teachers in my school who still have trouble using, they're like, Google Classroom, what's that? Or how do you attach a document? Or what's a PDF? And are they getting the same education as somebody who's completely fluid with technology? And how much technology do I need to understand and know in order to make sure that my kids are getting a quality experience? Also, I don't know, you guys have gone to the ISTE standards for teachers with technology. You guys know these and been there. These are really good. They're pretty simple. This is just the first page. I think it's only 2 pages. Very simple. This is the standards for teachers. And then they've also created this new graphic, probably within the last year or 2, where they talk about the standards for students as a digital citizen, as a knowledge constructor, an innovative designer, a computational thinker, a creative communicator, and a global collaborator. So if you click on that link, you go to a page that has all these, and then they build them out for you. It's, you know, I think it's pretty good. It's a useful resource to think about what we're really using technology for. And when you start using this type of language, you realize that what you're doing in the classroom is much more than just creating documents and slideshows. You're also able to emphasize some of the skills, the transferable skills that are going to allow kids to move into the 21st century successfully. Sorry about the quality of this graphic, but this is from Common Sense Media. I don't know how many of you have gone to Common Sense Media. It's a really great website, and they break it down into these 8 different facets of internet safety, privacy and security, relationships and communication, digital footprint, cyberbullying, self-image and identity. This is a really big one. I think it's really huge. I don't think we're doing not enough to address this. Obviously, cyberbullying, information literacy, and then creative credit and copyright. And if you go to their website, they have a ton of resources about all these, and they also have curriculum that you can just pretty much plug and play. And you can actually get, I think it's Common Sense Media, you can get digitally certified, right? You can do a certification process with them where you become a certified educator. And Bonnie Bird over at Williston Central School, I know, is a certified educator. And so they have a really good program there. Last thing I want to talk about, this is just a really quick overview of digital citizenship. We'll be talking about this more throughout the rest of the course. Communication to parents, I think, is something you definitely want to consider. This was actually something from the Williston School District that came to our house because my kids are in that district. And just communicating to people using technology about technology is, I think, something you may want to consider. If my kid is using technology a lot, I'd probably like to know about it as a parent, because we're limiting her technology at home. And if my kid has access to devices at school, I'd like to know about that, I think, right? And I'm sure most of you folks would too. So this is just an example of a communication from the Williston Central School, and it's pretty interesting, and it's got some really good, links in it. And these are the things that you may want to consider in your conferences or in your open houses. You may want to consider presenting this sort of thing to the parents. Hey, let me back up a little bit. Every kid in our school signs a technology agreement, because many of them are one-on-one, so they have a contract. And then in my classroom, they have a contract with their personal devices. So a kid can't use a personal device unless they sign this contract. And we actually have a culture or expectations and rules around the use of smartphones and personal devices. And in my classroom, it's very simple. Every time you have out a smartphone, you have to ask Mr. Taylor, can I use my smartphone for this, that, or the other thing? And I usually say yes. And creating that culture of responsibility and expectation. In my classroom, kids are never supposed to have out a smartphone unless they've asked me. And I don't know what your classrooms look like, but just no way are we doing the phone thing. And earbuds are never. They're totally forbidden in my classroom unless we're doing research. There's no way kids come into my room with their earbuds hanging out and I go crazy. Because what this says to me is, as soon as you stop talking, I'm plugging in and you're no longer important, and I don't want to be part of this community. And the whole earbud thing, I was traveling last week and I couldn't believe how many people are using those Mac earbuds, those wireless ones. And they're wearing them around like it's normal. And emails, earbuds to me just signify I don't want to be part of this community, and I think it's a damaging statement that kids can make about what they're doing in school. So here are some resources. Common Sense. This is a link. If you go there, Common Sense Media Digital Citizenship Curriculum. Again, that's really good. This has a lot of great resources. I don't know if you guys have gone to the Google Safety Center. Is anybody a Google certified educator? Google has these 20-hour programs where you can be a Google certified educator level 1, I think level 2. I did the level 1, and it's pretty good. It really teaches you a lot about Google. And then this I Keep Safe is a little bit technical. That's more for administrators, but this also is a way that you can have your tools that you're using with kids. You can have those evaluated for safety and privacy and all those sorts of things. There's the last thing, speaking of privacy, anytime you're sharing work or recording work or any of that, you need to make sure that you have permission not only from the kid, but from the parent as part of FERPA. And so I would make sure that that is a focus. Yep.
If you have it that, beginning years that right, we do have to redo it for this class.
I checked. I asked all the kids who came and presented their PLPs. I made sure it was okay with their parents before, and I have that in email, so I have documentation of that process. And by the way, thank you very much. The kids really appreciated coming up here and talking to you guys, so that was cool. Okay. Again, this is just a super brief overview of digital citizenship. We'll talk more about this as we move forward. We're going to come back and do a tech jam, but for right now, I'd like you guys to take a break, and why don't you come back at like 6:13 or whatever, 6:15. Just come back and we'll do a tech jam, and then we'll finish up the evening. Okay.
Not all of them. It's nice because we're doing
The cardboard box things? Yeah, I have a cardboard box. I don't know how to use it.
So I have some kids who are doing press of it, and they're doing a lot of them doing points, and I have a couple of kids who don't have any. I started with those that don't get.
Yeah.
And this kid was really dancers and got to walk through the natural.
Are you using the cardboard ones that use an iPhone? Huh.
What do you think? They're virtual reality. They're like a class.
Samsung, they're not that expensive either, right?
So
So
really cool. I mean, you got to go walk through the natural history.
how do you, so I need you to make an instructional video about that, because I don't understand how to do it.
They have person help me.
Yeah, so they have these virtual tours where you can go and do 3D stuff.
They were coming to schools in the last few years. And reach out to them and they have people who will come to you, yeah.
Ours aren't cardboard box.
Ours
Huh.
were cardboard.
Yeah, and I couldn't get it to work. I got it to work. I went to that Google one where there's this white, have you seen that white fox that's sitting there? There's like a white fox that's 3-dimensional. And then you have to do something to,
And one of my friends said walk with carrots.
Maybe
Like,
that's
check
the
out
wrong, is it
carrots.
the wrong
Pretty
app or
cool.
something, like you
I
have to
don't know.
move.
You're just-
I mean, you're just watching it.
It's like
you know,
goggles?
One through the goggles.
What were they called? Virtual reality.
So can you move your arms and do things?
They walk through it.
Okay, so ours was different. Ours is
You
just
just look around.
watching, yeah,
And like, we went to the
Exactly.
Grand Canyon.
exactly.
So they
It was
could,
like,
look
yeah,
up
virtual
and
field
look
trips.
around.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
That's different.
And they, another thing is like, the thing for you to get to walk.
Hold on, so you guys are walking district or just
Yeah.
school?
walking, whatever that means.
Because we were just talking about bus issues that we're having in our district. We have cameras on all the buses.
Yeah.
So like our student behavior interventionist has access to that. And because we have the same buses, they go at different times, but same buses for high school, middle school, and elementary school.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that's going on in there, and it's just completely insane. Some of the stuff.
Is it with technology?
There's stuff around technology. There's stuff around like some of them don't.
Just so you know.
Some of the things that are going on there, kids don't think. They think they're like just the cameras are just like they're not connected.
Yeah.
So they're like, we'll stand right there and say stuff or say like, oh, this is connected, and they'll talk directly to the behavior interventionist like on it.
Unbelievable.
Um,
Wait. I found that email. Spring and summer maker camps at VT Steam Space. Have you heard of this?
And so they just don't show to 10 till 9.
Where's it come from?
Champlain Maker Fair.
Yeah.
They just start at 9.
So that's the guys.
Canon toasters.
Will you forward it to me?
Yes. I will.
Never
no,
seen
we're
it.
not.
Well, wait, actually, wait a minute. This is my trash email, meaning that it's my email that, what's your email?
C Asaro.
Yeah.
SARO at ESD.
Okay, there you go. Yep. So kids are misbehaving on the buses?
Oh my God.
Well, I don't understand why that's happening. It's ridiculous.
So we were talking about what what we can do about it. One of the things is like our behavior interventionists will occasionally pop on a bus that's like having issues
Yeah.
and ride. And of course, when he's on there, totally different. But when he's not on there, the kids are like crazy.
So why aren't they getting punished for that?
They are. And then based on the evidence, they're getting written up and there's all this stuff. Investigations that go on, bullying, harassment, all that stuff happens based on the videos. So like if a parent says, Jill got off the bus and she said this happened, they'll go to that bus, they'll pull the hard drive, they'll look at it, they'll investigate it. They can hear it because there's microphones, so they can hear everything they're saying.
How old are
They'll
these
bring
kids?
Well, from kindergarten all the way. So like we have chorus, orchestra, and band in the morning. So
Yeah.
if they're doing that, it's before school. So the kids are getting on an earlier bus, so it might have high schoolers and middle schoolers on it.
We have 4 built-in days.
So like
So
fourth
I
and fifth
get
graders.
4 snow days. Then I
But
still go to
the
the same.
early bus
And
is
if I
the
don't
high
get
school and the
4,
middle
I
school,
still
and the later one is
I'm like, what's
3, 5, K5.
Where's most of it coming from? What grade?
All over.
That's weird, man.
Some of the language. So
You know what was weird about? So one thing when I went to Disney World, You know what I noticed? There was hardly any. I didn't hear it once swear like the whole week. I mean, it was so nice. It was like clean. You know, it's not like taking your kid to a Boston Red Sox game. There was just no. There was no.
No litter
That's-
anywhere, right?
No what?
No litter.
And
Yeah.
you know, we Googled it, and we were at the Magic Kingdom for a whole day. And like, if you had told me, Don, you're gonna go the whole day, I'd be like, and I still had to be like, we Googled it, 53,000 people a day, they average, right? You walk into the facilities there, clean, no litter, and it's, I mean, it's like, it's not my first choice, right? But holy cow, do they do a good job. And that's the thing I appreciate, is when people are doing a good job. It was amazing.
One of my favorite things.
I gained like 10
They do
pounds.
it well.
Yeah, I gained so much weight.
One of my favorite things is Tomorrowland. They used to have this robotic trash can. And so, like, there was a guy walking around, he controls it, he's got a mic, so it keeps the talk out of it.
Yeah.
And so, every once in a while, you'd see, like, we would find it and just sit and watch the interaction. It's so funny. Like, they just throw trash in a thing and also trash can go, thank you. And they start following the person and they'd be like, you know, and they start having this conversation with it. It's so funny, but apparently they got rid of
Were
it.
the lines at the way to like.
No, so my wife like planned the heck out of it, so we did these fast passes. So the longest I had to wait, well, we waited one time to get in these little race cars, and we didn't have a pass for that, so we waited for like 20 minutes. But with the fast pass, our longest wait was 10 minutes on the busiest day.
Wow.
Otherwise, you just walk into it. But you know, I don't know. It's you know, it's
Did you get your app?
yeah, you have to. I mean,
Yeah. So there's all these tricks. So you go the opposite way that everybody goes. They usually start in Tomorrowland and work their way over to Frontierland.
right.
And if you go to Frontierland and work your way the other direction, then the lines, you know, you don't have any lines to start out.
You know, I'm not like a song and dance guy at all, but they had a Lion King 45-minute musical that was like, it blew me away.
I believe that.
And like, I'm not a big musical guy, but that was cool. Anyway, it's just about respecting people for doing a good job. And mediocrity is so prevalent. And to see something exceptional, whatever realm it's in, I think it's pretty cool.
Do you have a favorite ride?
Yeah. See, my daughter is 7 and she's a precocious reader, and so she met all the princes and princesses and stuff, and I thought that was pretty cool for her. And my favorite ride was this one called Soaring, where they take you in this, they buckle you in and they pull you up, and then they have this screen that's probably 4 times as big as this front wall, and it's like you're flying over the Himalayas.
Yeah, if you do it enough.
Really cool, like 3D. What they do with technology is incredible. But I don't know, it's unsustainable. You know, all that electricity, all that waste. What's that?
Oh, we just watched, this movie called Damnation, and they're at, all the components.
I'm just gonna
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but you know what Disney's doing? They have cardboard straws. So that plastic straws, the cardboard straws are awesome. And
One of the kids at our school was like push for that, they're gonna do like those and talks to the US government.
well, here's the deal. Everybody talks about corporations and how wasteful they are, and they can be. But if you get Walmart and Disney World and all these huge corporations buying in, they know what's going on with climate. I mean, they know. And if you can get them moving in the right direction, but those cardboard straws are huge. You know, just think about all the plastic. So,
Yeah, we
okay.
a kid in our school, when he was in grade 4, came up with this like whole thing around like how many plastic straws are used every day, and like cutting it out, and then like legislating Vermont, and now like nationally like for legislation.
Do you work with the Vermont Energy Education Program at all?
I do.
You should check those out. They're awesome. They have all sorts of programs. And you know UVM 4-H? You know a woman named Lauren Tracer? You should look her up too, because she has this, she's writing a grant right now for education, environmental education leaders. And if you're interested in that stuff, if you have that in your program, it might be something worthwhile. Okay, So what we're gonna do, now is we're gonna do just tech jams. What I'd like you to do is talk to people, and I think we're gonna, if there's a way that we can maybe rotate around or walk around and talk to each other. I want to know what technology tools and platforms you find indispensable, but there's a caveat, and that is you have to have been using them for more than 2 years. Because I found that we can use things for 1 year and forget about them, but those things that stick, usually it's about 2 school years. So I'd like you to talk to each other about the tools that you use in your classroom or planning or researching that you find indispensable, and then also maybe tools that you know well enough to teach other teachers that you're experts in. And I guess a fourth one would be, what tools would you like to use? How many of you have Twitter accounts? Yeah, that's interesting to me, because Twitter, I think, is a pretty valuable professional resource.
Oh, see, I didn't have a Facebook. I got up.
I said a technology tool, not entertainment. So
You don't have to follow him.
I know. But
yeah, no, you do.
No, you know
He's the
what?
leader
I
of our
stopped
country.
following him. I
Right?
stopped following
You
him.
follow
It was
him.
so frustrating.
Yeah. You have to. That's the part. That's also social media is closing us off. You know, from other. We follow everybody who shares our beliefs, but the people who don't share our beliefs, we don't follow. So I follow them so that I can see what is out there and being posted. And yeah, I think you have to do it, right?
How does it emotionally, like, how does it make you feel when you get like a tweet and you see it and you're like, from Donald Trump? Like, does it change your mood?
That's a deeply personal question.
Oh, sorry. Okay, what if he tweets something that you disagree with? Like, definitely disagree with. Does it
Hypothetically.
change?
I don't think he's
your-
tweeted anything that I've agreed with. How? Okay.
Because I don't, like, I look at that stuff and I just get so, like, my anxiety just like.
So there's a part of me, there's the angel that's saying, handle this appropriately, and just glide right by it, because otherwise it's turning into this like cute mega rant that has nothing to do with what we're doing here. And then the devil on my shoulder is saying, have at it. What I would say is that I heard, you guys listen to Marketplace in the morning on NPR?
Yeah.
I really like that show. And one of the statements they made this morning is that the tariffs that may or may not have passed today are about steel and aluminum. And one of the things on Marketplace they said is that our government is preparing us for the 19th century, whereas the Chinese government, what we really should be doing is creating tariffs and protections for intellectual property and software. And I want to just go back to a conversation I had 6 years ago with a guy who works for St. Mike's, who helps recruit Asian students. He plays on my hockey team. And he sat down, I said, oh, I haven't seen you for a while. He's like, yeah, I was in Asia recruiting students. And he was in Singapore, he was in South Korea, and he was in China. I said, what's that like? He said, it's amazing. If you go over there, he said, the infrastructure, the internet connectivity, he said it's laser speed internet, the trains are incredible, the roads are incredible, it's amazing. And that's what China is doing right now. And they're blowing us out of the water. And our government, number one, again, this is just my opinion, but they're preparing us for the 19th century. And more evidence of that is Scott Pruitt at the EPA, who worries me more than anybody. And it turns out that you guys have heard of this Bears Ears national wildlife thing that was reduced by like 1 million acres. It turns out that the head of the Interior, Ryan Zinke, was saying that it had nothing to do with oil and gas. And when you look at the oil and gas corporation's maps, it's exactly how they changed that monument. Like, exactly. And so we're looking at oil and gas and coal and aluminum and steel, and we're headed backwards where these other nations are headed forwards. And there's going to be a reckoning with that. And I mean, it scares the crap out of me. That's what it does. And these people are, you know, the NRA and gun control. It scares the crap out of me.
You watch the John Oliver's?
I have a
He's
sibling.
great.
I have a brother
Well,
Videos
who
are
thinks
pretty
that
good.
the NRA.
NRA
Look,
TV.
I hunt. I hunt, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a gun owner. And I can tell you right now that the only reason you need an assault rifle is for other people. And I'm not hunting them, but a lot. There's 8 million assault rifles in the United States right now. And if you have to worry about your kids going to school, I mean, you hear about this kid in Farragut? Anyway,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's crazy. And then all of a sudden, the drills that you're doing at school, you start to tell your kids, you know, I've told you not to mess around, and this is why. Yeah, that's crazy. But anyway, so I follow Donald Trump and I follow Scott Pruitt because I think that you have to know what they're talking about. I think it's important. So there's a Padlet right here. I've also told you guys when I get emails that have all caps in them, like the crazy people, the whole all caps thing. Anyway, so here's one. What are tools? Here are the questions, right? What technology tools do you find indispensable? Have you been using for more than 2 years? What tools do you know well enough to teach other teachers? For the next 4 minutes, I would like you to be populating this Padlet. And then what we're going to do is we're going to swap table groups. And then so you can talk to each other. You can go on those Padlets. And if you could actually put right there, if you could put the link to it, that would be awesome. So that we can kind of see what people are using. And maybe give a little description of it too.
Do you want us to put a different one in each? And make it
Yeah. You guys can talk to each other.
I'm not there yet.
Okay, great.
Well, we just
Okay.
started.
Okay.
So I haven't done it for 2 years.
How did you do it?
It's not just- it's- These lessons.
Soft murmur. All about.
I can't even think about what I do. What do you use?
Oh gosh, I just linked my wedding.
I was like, wow.
I swear I really good job.
What is that? A wedding announcement? Are you serious? Dude.
Wait,
Are we
like,
supposed to
check out
pitch
my
in and
wedding
get you something?
website.
This is like digital citizenship, what not to post.
Sorry.
You're really focused, right?
No, I copied, but I must not have actually copied this one.
I guess not.
Pasted the wrong.
That was the last link I sent anyway.
I remember what I do.
Jeez. I didn't like
I don't know. I'm just looking at like Tupperware patterns and stuff that are on jail. So I can see that.
no more accepting it again. They don't fit.
Wow.
Utah genetics.
It's not a really good video.
What I mean, is it for the state of Utah or?
Yeah, it's like their educational, I don't know.
Is there a Vermont genetic site or like is there a state genetic site for
I'm
each?
not aware of. I mean, it's like their university.
Cool.
It's not just about people.
That's what I was wondering. They all have the same DNA.
No. But if you want to teach genetics, it's got a lot of like really good. It's a lot.
University of Utah.
The learning center, so they have like a whole, they have like a science grant, and they made this like learning center website, and they did it like 2 years ago, so they updated everything.
Huh.
You guys
Middle school.
want to teach that disorders? Or,
Are you guys studying like CRISPR?
I had a couple kids doing that. We don't actually, because in this class I'm teaching now, we don't actually cover genetics. We do evolution though, so I had a couple of kids who wanted harder stuff, so I gave them some CRISPR things.
I still have
And some stuff with like gateway cloning and.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, that seems pretty.
okay.
I'm using it.
I want all the features. I don't think they can use it. I downloaded it. Sure, next time the link.
Okay, about another minute.
I always find
That
somebody.
was some girl that was
Scratch. I was like, oh, you can teach. Because I had gone on a bunch of times. And I was like,
What?
And my coach are both, I added him. Like that. And I actually, the two teachers are all share this. I can't edit this.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you guys to stop adding. There's a ton of stuff up here. This is cool. So now what I'm going to, I'm gonna change direction a little bit. What I'm gonna ask you to do is maybe choose 5 of these that you don't use and explore them. So 5 that you might want to just, this is where technology gets like overwhelming to me. But if you want to just maybe explore 5 of these, and then we're going to have switch table groups, and you're going to sit down and talk about the ones you explored and maybe the ones you used. And especially, I would explore ones that you think might be useful in your situation. Okay. Should I put on some soft murmur? Should we explore that now?
Yes, please.
I didn't want
Monster Hunt app.
I played it on the plane ride.
You can customize it. Do you want more rain? Less thunder?
You talking to me?
Ooh, cricket? What is it, fire?
You make any of those
The bird
sounds?
sounds on for your testing thing.
I like rain and thunder personally.
I've never heard of it.
Would you like to set the tone?
She's clearly the expert on that.
Have you used this before?
Yeah. I can't read unless it's silent or ambient sounds. So if people are just speaking, I'm not reading.
Sorry.
See, earbuds.
Oh wait, man.
I can't, I don't think it's totally.
Okay, it's not. Ooh.
Is it
It's
raining?
raining. Is it raining?
Yeah, I don't want too much rain.
Less
What? Warm fire,
Yeah, it's
windy night. Ooh,
Waves crashing.
bonfire
yeah,
on the beach.
That's the best.
Every movie, I can't find the one. A lot of this.
It's okay if we
sign
put
on
like
to-
paid site, like paid for sites, yeah.
Yeah, mine.
Subscription sites, I put a couple of subscription sites on there.
No, that was.
I don't think there are any rules.
Other than no earbuds.
Oh, earbuds.
I do remember that. This is yours, right?
Cool.
That's just
Figure out
the,
how
that's
to
just
get
the
the web.
homepage.
So Launchpad is just.
Good.
It's
So learning,
Oh,
learning
I forgot
that.
about it. I have to
You write to Looney Tunes.
Yeah, so,
Christian TV is one.
no, it's probably, you have to create an account.
Go Noodle, go Noodle. We need to go Noodle.
What are you talking about?
Launchpad,
Launchpad?
student teachers that work with it, they get
Oh, wait a minute.
fellowship,
Oh, what's his name?
Brian, Boys, and, oh, you probably know.
He's a
Peter
strap.
Yeah, he's like a rock star.
It's like spring break. And mindfulness. There's like,
Is
you-
Launchpad good?
your kids-
I use it all the time, but
That
Is
was-
it free?
Yeah, that's.
it is free, it's not,
Do you have
it's
a choice?
video right now.
I think it's more like.
Yeah, yeah, I'm the only one
For
that
my-
really uses it.
my-
I don't
This
know.
is right, it's not mine.
Well, that's like super overwhelming.
Well, you can go up to channel. Here.
I've used
Sorry,
it
I
for more than 2 years.
just-
Yes. My third-
Are
Yeah, I
you
was touching
laughing at?
from that. Sorry, that's not it.
How do you manage your class?
If you go up to channel.
We use like Google now.
Oh, you go after the categories. It's not a small phone.
No.
When you said that, I was like, what? Yeah, stress. And all
When you have it, like.
the Discover is like.
Some.
Yeah.
But the categories of
Oh,
channels.
What is that
So
one?
these are all your.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember- yeah,
You're
I
still
remember.
using Safari, huh?
Yeah, I have all my bookmarks on there.
Oh, you're important.
Yeah, I used to go back my younger teacher was using Safari, and I was like, well, I just learned that I'm more hip
Filled
because
out.
I use Chrome. The only time I'll ever.
Safari. I don't know.
Link it with.
Like every time you send me something, the lines are lined up, I'm like, oh, you don't use Chrome, dude.
Whoa.
I do remember you showing it.
So, well, you.
What did
This
I
is
do?
great because I've been using these YouTube ambient sound mixes that have commercials in it. So this is cool.
Oh, this is great.
I'm gonna be annoying. I just want to put this up just a little bit louder.
This is what you would have to screencast it by yourself.
Sure.
There.
I heard a red-winged blackbird the other day.
Oh, that's exciting.
Well, it's the first sign of spring. John Quincy Adams, the farmer on my street, said, red-winged blackbird and killdeer. When you hear killdeer, you'll know it's spring.
Name is confidence.
Right? Something like
I don't know.
that. No, man. For sure. John Quincy.
Where do you even start with our code?
John Quincy? Yeah.
Our code.
Our
Do you have
code
to do a whole hour?
No,
No.
go to code.org activities.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just,
code.org activities.
So you
What's
should,
the
like,
other one?
create
Code
a
Academy is another one. If Code Academy is really good. And
Like
Tinker.
be Moana.
Scratch.
With a Y.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, if you go to code.org activities, it'll show activities by grade level.
and you know what that's awesome for is if you get it wherever you have a class web page or anything. So I have on their PLP, they have a coding page.
Yeah.
And they have four places that they can go to, Tinker, code.org, Code Academy.
Yeah.
And then they can do whatever they want for however long they want. They just get up and sit there.
If you grab it, those three topics, I tried to do this, but I can't figure out how that. When I go,
Yeah.
I can't actually do
Okay.
it.
Oh.
So you're,
That's
yeah,
not
so you
interesting.
record your desktop. Share it. And then and you're talking into it now. So this is Allison working on Screencastify as a tool for the class.
And where does it share it?
So the problem, so the problem is that sometimes I can't find it in the Google Drive. So what I'll do is I'll download it. You see how you can download it? So you download it. When you download it, it'll end up being that file. And then you can save that and name it whatever you want to name it. And then I usually upload it to you. And then
That's great.
yep.
And that's how I can, once I get through where this stuff. But can I go in and expand their videos and I'll pass it over for the.
I think, I'm not sure. Who put out this one Zoom to me? That's incredible. Yeah. What does the 5.06 MA mean?
How long ago? They like branched off.
So there's 19 species of raccoon dog.
I'm gonna get like lost in that for a while. Wow.
This is real. This is like. Can you print?
You can like screenshot parts of it.
You are interested in this kind of stuff. There's an article in the New Yorker about marmorated stink bugs. Have you heard about this? Really interesting article. It talks about how they're an invasive species and they the United States. There's actually plenty of it in South Carolina. I'm actually gonna try and find
I
it.
just found out. And the dashboards. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heard all about it. Not. My gosh, I could teach kids how to make a solar panel back for my time. In 5 easy lessons. Just make it for me.
I just sent that one to you, Sam. It's pretty good. I mean, it's an interesting article. I read it last night. It's kind of, so these stink bugs, what's really interesting about them is unlike the emerald ash borer, which they mentioned in the article, which has evolved to one species, these marmorated stink bugs eat anything. And it's really interesting to see. So they can eat an apple, and you can't tell that they've eaten it, but they've left a pheromone on there. So other stink bugs will come and start eating it through other. It's kind of cool.
But you know the average lifespan of a cat? Only 3 years. Guess what the average lifespan of a squirrel is? 18 years. Yeah. So they're trying to figure out like what genes, like that's a great example, like what specific genes makes it different than another one. Then they started doing tests like that on worms. They got worms to live like twice as long, 5 times as long as they were able to like figure out which gene is like your youth gene.
Yeah, they were thinking of
Yeah. Yeah. But they started the thing on NPR talking about the squirrel and the rat. And like, so we picked something with less genes that we could like start picking, and they found it pretty quickly. Like the youth gene and then like the Grim Reaper gene, they called the other one. So it was really cool.
All right, I'm sending you an article too by Bernhard Bilger. It's called Squirrel and Man.
Oh, yes.
You've got to read. You ever eaten squirrel?
No. Yeah, send it over.
This is a great, well,
Okay.
it's got an awesome ending. Murmur thing is going to put me right out. I like it.
I didn't see any tech tools on here, but you might know of one that's like if you're trying to show your work, like with the sound and you writing, you're trying to like live stream it to a student. What would you use?
That's a good one. I don't know, because I know what you're talking about, where you can actually illustrate or use a,
Yeah,
what do you call those things?
like a art pen.
Yeah.
So you can do it through flip class.
You know how you can do it? You can do it in Google Slideshow with a screencast because Google Slideshow, see this wheel? Where you go, where you do presenter, see this?
Oh, and that can
That,
be
I don't know if
brought
that's,
live to someone who's looking
yeah, I
at
think
maybe
so.
with sound too.
I think so. Not sure. That's a good question. Okay, a couple more minutes of exploration.
All of them, I just expert.
Good. Oh, yeah. You get 3D printing.
Yeah.
What's that one? The one where you can find all the objects.
Oh,
Yeah, but there's one where you can find all the objects.
like for design.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Oh.
So Tinkercad has that.
There's another one. Tinkercad. Google it, but really good because it's going Have you looked at Reaper? That's another one I should have. Or iReady, the subscription, or do you have your look at Uzella?
I just looked at my phone.
Or do you use Uzella? That's where I use Uzella.
I'm not sure that
Use
some of
that.
my students get more than that. Like the youngest grade that even second grade, lifestyle. For some of them, it works.
Check out Reaper.
I will go, it's really good.
We have a couple of those subscriptions.
Okay, yeah, we need, I will go next, which is just the next
Yeah.
one.
And what's the next one?
I will go
what?
next.
Oh, yeah,
So
Tinkercad.
it goes, it's similar, I'm sure, to yours to you and stuff.
Yeah.
Which
Like
one?
the little video clips.
Do you have that?
Yeah.
Like,
Like, it's like that too, we have that on our learning center site. It's like,
Yeah.
you just go
Get to it.
right from
Pop in, right?
I lost. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna put that there. It's, the kids like it. It's literally
sure
just a
they do,
famous
it's
person
so
meeting each other.
there. Oh, you have a reload thing?
Read by read.
Storyline online?
Oh, so you don't have to do the reload, they can just click on it.
It's called
A famous
Thingiverse.
celebrity does the real life.
Darren,
Yeah.
have you ever heard of Thingiverse?
I never did. Yeah, you were
Just listen to him over and over.
so self-familiar.
Thingiverse.
Your dog that.
But do you have, if they do download that, then you have them, can they edit it at all?
Yeah, you can change it for shapes and sizes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think if you look at objects.
Storyline? Storyline?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this is true.
When we have like a classroom on Halloween around Wednesday or something, we did like do a little project.
So you've been
And
using
then
Chrome
they're
for a
having
while
their
now?
little snack.
Yeah, I know it's in your email.
How did you,
Oh, about today, can't make it to class.
well, it's actually, it's true. It doesn't, no,
Are they all picture books or do they have
people trying to.
Those, I think it's all picture books.
Firefox. I
That
used
would
to
be
use
cool if they had a
Firefox all the
chapter book.
time.
They don't have picture books up to like.
Now, well, now I'm starting to.
Right, I just don't
Hard
think
thing,
they could
like, all my
someone can sit down long enough to read all chapter books.
Well, we do, we have,
You don't have it.
I started doing,
Bookmark, but I have bookmarks, so.
audiobooks
Do they know?
myself.
You know, some of them are.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what
Yeah.
I want to choose.
So, just come here for 1 second, I'll show you something. So what I've done is just to save time, So if you go, this is the broadcast. But if you see how I have,
Yeah.
see how I have all these?
Yeah.
And then basically you just take out the edits, right? So I mean, and I group them. So you just kind of know where everything is. It just saves you a wicked amount of time. And then I've started using folders. So these are all websites.
Cool.
And then these are all.
That's like that's my problem getting my Safari is that everything is organized in folders and all the sub folders and
I reorganized it this year, but anyway. So when you always have your bookmark bar, so that's my class website. That's Google Classroom. It just saves a wicked lot of time.
okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I actually geeked out. And then you know the other thing too is you have your Chrome extensions. So these are all the extensions that I'm using. So this is like Evernote, Digo.
What's Digo?
Digo is an online highlighting, so you can get an article and it saves into a library that you can highlight.
Oh, cool.
So you read articles, and then so I read this article, and then any highlights in the article show up in your library.
Oh, cool.
And so if you're doing research or something like that, this is a Google URL shortener. This is Google Scholar. Cite this for me. Screencastify, Doctopus, and then that's HTTPS everywhere. So just using the Chrome extensions can kind of make life quicker and easier, I guess, or more distracted.
I still have my one in my classroom. But that's what's nice about access to it.
Okay, why don't you guys, why don't we take like a 3 or 4 minute break, and then when we come back, I want you to sit with different people, and I want you to discuss some of the tools that you looked at and that you are thinking about using. And then you can have the rest of the evening, you can have to be working and making a plan for next week. I have to talk to Courtney and Darren about the teaching episode.
I dropped.
Okay, I'll talk to Darren about the teaching episode, but the rest of you should make a plan. And then for next week, we do have Kate Coleman's going to come in. I think she's probably going to have like 45 minutes to an hour. She might be bringing students. That's about proficiency-based learning. And then Darren's going to talk about flexible pathways, which would be a good mix. And that'll be 30 to 45 minutes. So we're not going to have a whole lot of time to be working next week. Okay? So 3 or 4 minute break. When you come back, sit with different people. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to talk about tech tools that you explored tonight, and then you'll have the remainder of time to be working and making a plan with your project. Does anybody have any questions about that? Anything anybody needs to add? Okay, take a quick break, and then we'll come back in just a little bit.